Welcome back to Happy Place Cooking. Today I am going to be making some biscuits, but I'm going to do a little bit different of a biscuit. I'm going to make beer biscuits. I'm using Bud Light. I don't know that it really matters what kind of beer you use. This recipe is not only different that it uses beer, but it's also different that it uses melted butter. Generally when I make biscuits, the butter is supposed to be basically as cold as it can get. I don't know how this is going to come out. Fail or not, you're going to get to see it. I'm going to get started with 2 cups of flour. I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 a teaspoon of salt. I have a tablespoon of sugar. Just gonna mix those dry ingredients up a little bit. This is 6 tablespoons of melted butter. I am going to put the majority of it in there, but I am going to leave just a little bit so that I have something to brush the tops of my biscuits. And I'm going to add my 1 cup of beer. That's pretty runny. I'm not going to be able to make biscuits out of that. I'm going to add a little bit more flour. That looks better. That's a little more doughy like. I don't know. That might still be a little tacky. With a little bit more. Okay, that'll probably work. I'm going to just take I've got it on parchment. I don't like doing the floured surface thing. It just makes too much of a mess. I'm going to take this little piece and I'm just going to flatten this, but I'm not going to flatten it a lot. I prefer my biscuits to be like thick. Now this recipe, boy, look at that. Yeah, that's pretty gummy. I sure hope these cook up okay. This recipe says they got 15 biscuits out of this. Now I don't know how flat the biscuits were. The picture makes them appear to be extremely thick, but I really don't see this making 15 biscuits unless they're bite size. Honestly, I'm not even for sure how I want to do this because it's a little gummy. I need this to be more in a rectangle type shape, I guess. It's just so gummy. I guess I'm going to put some flour on it. I feel like this recipe was doomed from the get-go. Okay, there is no way. Well, I mean, there is a way. I could get 15 biscuits out of that, but they're going to be teeny, teeny, tiny. I'm thinking I'm going to get about 6 out of this. So I am going to cut it right down the middle. Some of these are going to be bigger than the others. Ha! Good enough. I'm going to try to transfer these over to a baking sheet. Oh, man. I don't believe I've ever worked with such a gummy biscuit recipe before. They're sticking to me so bad that I'm just trying to get them on the pan. But I do need to make room because I do have 2 more. Ugh, it's horrible. They're definitely not going to be pretty, but that's good. That sticks with the theme of my channel, right? I have my oven preheated to 375, and these are supposed to cook for 20 minutes, but I'm just going to have to play that by ear, I have a feeling. If they look pretty decent at about 15 minutes, I'll pull them out and do the butter rub on them, and then I'll put them back in for the last 5 or so minutes. They've been in for 15 minutes. As you can see, they are puffing. I'm actually extremely impressed. But they look a little more like scones than they do biscuits. I am going to brush these with my butter that I have left. If you prefer to not use butter, you could, I'm sure, brush it with egg or milk. Put those back in for about 5 more minutes. They didn't get an overwhelmingly brown, but I mean, there is some browning here and there. I am gonna let this cool and then I'll do a little taste test and let you know if you should even bother trying to make them. I just grabbed one of them funky shaped ones. That's kind of funny because they're basically all 6 of them pretty funky shaped. I'm gonna bust this open. Still steaming, still pretty warm. Let you see the inside. They look good on the inside. Nice and moist feeling. Good and spongy. Hope I don't burn my mouth off. Let me try another little bite real quick. Actually, I like them. I think they taste pretty darn good. Using a little bit stronger of a beer might be a tad bit overwhelming. I think the lighter beer is probably better. I can taste it. I can taste the beer. So it does have a slight beer flavor, but it's very light to me. That doesn't mean it will be very light to you. Everyone's taste buds are different. You might be able to taste it a lot more. In that case, I would say definitely do not use a stronger beer. In fact, you might just want to find a different biscuit recipe. If you have ever made biscuits using beer, drop me a comment below and let me know what you thought of them. Or if you decide to try this and never have and you decide to try this, let me know what you thought of it. And let me know what type of beer you used because, you know, I'm always curious about things like that. What would somebody pick to use in a recipe when it just calls for beer? Thanks so much for watching. Happy eating!